Networking opens a lot of doors, right? Even if you cannot be stay ahead of the game, you at least should be updated as on date. It's just that when you go up the curve and you get into mid management, senior management, then obviously you need to be very hands on with one thing that you really shine internally. You need to be open to learning, I would say. Technology is changing very fast, rapidly. New things are coming up.
Hey Pranjal, welcome on the
I'm,
show.
hey, Vipul, hi. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's our pleasure, and thank you for accepting our invitation and joining us on this live session. So we would love to have you on this session, and we would love to have your insight on this session. So,
Sure.
yeah, so to begin with the questions, uh, tell
Yeah.
us more about you and your journey till now.
Right. So I started my journey in banking after I completed my MBA from IFT, and prior to that, I did my BTech in petroleum engineering from PDU. So it was a bit of pivot, but then obviously my engineering background gave me an analytic base, which actually helped me knowingly and knowingly. And so I joined IDFC First Bank as part of a management training program, and we had different cross-functional stint as part of our initial days. There I was p- mostly handling trade and cash management solutions. And from that, I moved on to ICICI Bank, then where I was part of the capital account team. That point of time, the startup ecosystem was just booming, and there was a requirement in the market for people who actually specialize in that particular kind of domain. I was fortunate enough to part of that team, and essentially that's where I actually began my journey as creating my own niche and obviously at the same time broad basing and gathering as much knowledge as possible. Then post COVID, I moved to HSBC, where I was part of the commercial banking team. I was leading based out of Delhi, so I was offering solutions which are more global in nature to a wider clientele. And then recently, I moved to Kotak Private, being part of such a solutions team, and then actually focusing on the niche that I have built over the years, which is more related to capital account solutions, transaction banking solutions, and escrow structurings. And yeah, and over the years, what I've learned is that banking is more about understanding your client needs, managing different kind of relationships that you build, networking essentially, and then obviously managing the ever evolving regulations in the country.
Great, great, and you are also a LinkedIn top voice badge holder. So that's a great achievement. You are doing amazing.
Thank you.
So
Sure.
just keep it up.
Sure.
And
Thank
moving on, yeah, audience, you can follow Pranjal on his LinkedIn ID. I've shown it here. We'll also put in the link in the YouTube and LinkedIn description. You can definitely check that and you can connect with him. So moving on to the next question, very first question of the day, and very basic. What are some of the most promising career paths in the banking industry today?
Thanks, Vipul, for that. So banking has evolved significantly, ever so, I would say in last 5 6 years. And so the career paths have diversified, obviously, to each of his own. What are your career preferences and what is the suite of skills that you bring along? But if I have to jot it down, it would be first is obviously the transition banking and treasury sales, which actually looks after global trade, equities, and cash flows, which the clients need. Then the other one is the ever famous investment banking and M&A advisory, which is more related to your structuring deals, capital raising, corporate finances, has a more global view to it. Then comes private banking and wealth management, which essentially is an ever-growing field in India currently because of the lot of IPOs which is happening in the startup segment. So there you have to advise the HNIs, the founders, the family offices on investments, how they can grow the wealth that they have created for themselves. And then fintech and digital banking, essentially the product roles. So in case you want to be a part of a field which essentially builds the next generation of technology within the banking segment, this is where you can focus on. And the most important, and I think the core of banking is risk and compliance. So if you are somebody who's more hands-on with the regulations, guidelines, and has that mindset, then that is for you. And this is essentially different kind of roles that you have in the banking segment. Obviously, banking in general is divided into different kind of categories, which is retail banking, commercial banking, and global banking, and then you have aligned products for that.
That's amazing. Uh, generally बैंकिंग की बात आती है तो वो ट्रेडिशनल दिमाग में वही आता है, कैश काउंटर, कैशियर एंड
Yeah,
कैश काउंटर
yeah,
एंड डिपॉजिटिंग कैश एंड विड्रॉइंग
yeah.
कैश, तो
Branch
वो एक,
manager.
या ब्रांच मैनेजर, सो
Yeah,
वो काफी अभी एक एक माइक्रो डिवीजन हो गया है, ऐसा बोल सकते हैं. इट इज बैंकिंग हैज इवॉल्व्ड एंड एंड
yeah.
एंड and with the time, so next question is related to that, how has the banking sector evolved in the last decade, and what skills are most valuable now?
Right. So, like people I spoke of, in we can say that in the last 5 6 years, the banking is in India essentially has evolved a lot. A lot of inclusion has happened from the government centrally, uh, invent of the UPI. So, if I have to talk about the last decade, it would be more on the digital transformation, the regulatory tightening, and increasing globalization. So, how our solutions are being accepted globally, as well as we are learning globally, and also outsourcing our technology globally. So, and key skills, if one has to ask me, would be importantly regulatory know-how. What are the guidelines prescribed by RBI, and what can be done, what cannot be done, and how is the interpretation of the same. Tax savviness, because obviously lot of work is going on the tech side, even with the fintech partners, fintech startups that have popped up, and the different kind of technology which is being developed for that. And the client centric approach, so clients are centered to anything which a bank does, right? So essentially we are managing their expectations and what we can deliver to them as solutions, right? So understanding client, understanding what they require, being uh, in being somebody who can actually present their problems internally within the bank. So that's very important. And most importantly, and that's what my leadership team and seniors have always told me, being having a data based approach, how you can div, uh, get the most out of the data that which is in front of you. So data analytics and risk management, that is something that I think I would have to say that's 4 points which is more important for anybody who's looking to start his career in the banking industry.
That's amazing. And you rightly said UPI has changed the India, dynamics of Indian banking. So
Right.
if you can throw a light on that, how UPI has evolved and how it is helping in career prospect into particularly banking industry.
So UPI essentially was developed by NPCI. So if I understand correctly, and what it has done is from a majorly a cash-based economy and post demonetization, a lot of people have actually adaptability has come into the picture, and a lot of people on a daily basis are now using UPI for making payments and receiving payments, right? So even you can make payments to like what used to happen in age beforehand was that even if you go to a tea stall which is around the corner, you used to make a cash payment, and if he doesn't have change, he used to give you like a toffee or something like that, under
Yeah,
1 2 rupees, right? What has happened now that you can just make that 7 rupees of UPI payment or 5 rupees of UPI payment, which actually
true.
makes life easier for that person who's actually selling the tea, because then he can actually understand how much he has earned. That money is safe in the account, and a lot of inclusion has happened, if I have to say, with
So,
with just one invention, right?
so
And
आपने
UPI is
बिल्कुल
just
सही
part of it.
बताया कि यूपीआई के आने के बाद जो टॉफीज और जो कैंडीज की थी जो सेल्स थी वो चेंजेस के कारण भी काफी कम हो गए, बिकॉज अदरवाइज
Right.
वो मतलब वीक में 4-5 तो दिन ऐसे होते ही थे कि आपको कैंडीज और टॉफीज विदाउट मांगे भी मिल जाती थी, बट
मिल
अभी
जाती
वो
थी, राइट, राइट,
वो
राइट,
एकदम से टॉफीज और कैंडीज तो फिर भी अच्छी बात थी, बट कुछ कुछ लोकेलिटीज में तो वो टोकन वाली सिस्टम थी, वो कूपन्स थी 1 रुपीज एंड
अच्छा,
2 रुपीज के
राइट,
कूपन्स भी, आई हैव
राइट,
गॉट दैट किया, दिस इज अ टोकन, आप दूसरी बार हमारे यहाँ पे वो शॉप का स्टैंप लगाया हुआ और कूपन मिलता था, आप नेक्स्ट टाइम आओ
राइट,
अगर वो दोगे तो चलेगा, सो दैट इज ऑल गॉन नाउ, सो दैट इज ट्रू.
yeah.
ग्रेट.
Nee, obviously. So if I may add, Pulse actually Pulse has been a market changer, because what Pulse identified. Pulse is the toffee that is essentially available these days. That what they place their candies at all these places, the tea stalls and all those places. So at the place of changes, people start giving Pulse. So that's how they actually grew in sales. They
True.
did a master class there. So if anybody actually wants to understand the impact of it, they can read about Pulse's marketing story.
Very true. Very true. Great.
Yeah.
True. 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 So, moving on to the next question, for
Yeah.
someone starting their career in banking,
Yeah.
what entry level roles offer the best long term growth potential? वो होता है ना कि बेस्ट सैलरी या बेस्ट जॉब बेस्ट प्रोफाइल, वो दोनों
Hmm.
चीजों में से कंपैरिजन करना होता है. सो क्या ऐसा कौन सा रोल या ऐसा कौन सा डिपार्टमेंट सिलेक्ट किया जा सकता है जिससे लॉन्ग टर्म ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल हो सकता है?
So Vipul, it's to each his own. I would say. Firstly, you have to identify what are you good at. Like if you really are into people skills, and you have really good communication skills, you can go for sales roles, which are available in different domains that I've just spoke of recently. And if you think that you're very analytical in your approach and you're data driven, then you can do an product roles. And if you think that you're really good with finance and understanding balance sheet, cash flows, then you can go for different roles. So if I have to tell, it would be you can be a relationship manager, and essentially which where your people skills would actually evolve, and your client centricity, how you network, would actually come into the picture. And would be there would be the treasury sales and FX advisory, which is essentially to deal with the forex market. You can read about it, and if you're a lot of into market, then even a wealth management role is something for you. And if you want to take a back seat, don't not wanting to be part of sales, you think that धूप में जाके काम नहीं करना, वो एक होता है approach. Then you can go for career kind of roles where, your number skills and your how good you are with numbers would actually come into the picture, or a product analyst kind of a role, in case you are very good at getting hands on with digital technologies, changes, and all those things. So, to each his own, like I just mentioned. But obviously, you have to broad base. You cannot be that from day one you would be asked to do everything. It has to be, you need to be open to learning, I would say. And
True.
obviously, a lot of hustle is also needed. You need to be open and eager to learn. The learning would happen on the job. That's I can assure you. But you need to be open about it.
हाँ, वेरी 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 ट्रू, आपने बिल्कुल सही बताया. कई बार ऐसा भी होगा कि एक डिपार्टमेंट में जाके आपको लगेगा कि नहीं, दिस इज़ नॉट समथिंग
Hmm.
आई मेंट फॉर, दिस इज़ और दिस इज़ नॉट अ कप ऑफ टी फॉर मी. सो उस चीज़ में उस केस में वो ट्रांज़िशन या चेंज करना कितना पॉसिबल होगा?
It's easy actually. So it's all about how transferable your skills are, and you need to also understand. For example, a relationship manager in transaction banking need to know what treasury products are, what kind of working capital solutions I can extend to my client, and even on the cash management solutions, right? So that particular person needs to be jack of all trades, if I have to say. And obviously they can then develop their own niche, and be really good in one of those domains. But then you have to have broad base of knowledge, like I just mentioned. It's just that when you go up the curve and you get into mid management, senior management, then obviously you need to be very hands on with one thing that you really shine internally on. But if you don't have the knowledge how a branch works, if you don't know how working capital products work, if you don't have how markets operate, then you would be missing out on a lot of information which is flowing in from the top, because you'll not be able to understand and you'll not be able to cater to the client needs,
वेरी
and then essentially a lot of problem happens.
वेरी ट्रू, मैंने बिल्कुल सही बताया. ग्रेट. So that was a question for those who are already into one department और उनको चेंज करना हो या कौन सा राइट डिपार्टमेंट सिलेक्ट करना हो. बट दिस इंडस्ट्री इज अ फैसिनेटिंग इंडस्ट्री. या काफ़ी लोगों को ऐसा भी होता है कि दोज हु आर इनटू अदर इंडस्ट्रीज, बट if they want to get entry into banking, so the question is, how can professionals from non banking background can transition into the banking industry? कैसे पॉसिबल है, या हाउ दे कैन परस्यू देयर करियर इनटू बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री, व्हाट दे कैन डू, क्या कर सकते हैं?
Right. So, Vipul, first of all, most important networking. You need to know the right people and understand from there what is needed from them to essentially be a part of the banking system or banking solutions, right? And they need to learn to showcase what are the skills that are transferable. For example, you are really good at tech, right? You're doing some tech related work, hardcore tech, or maybe consulting work. You need to showcase how it can be transferred to a banking solution, banking tech, banking product. Okay. Then, secondly, obviously, you can do certificates courses. If you have not done an MBA in finance, you can go for it. That essentially adds on a more value to it. So, things like FRM, CFA, all those certifications which are very prevalent in the market, and information about it available online. You can go for it, and then if you're just starting, you can then maybe ask for internship, like happens in case of CAs, right? They intern at one of the banks, and then they end up actually working in that same bank. And in case you think that no, it's not happening for me, banking is nobody's actually taking me, then you can reach out to something which is more closer to it. Maybe work at a startup which is has a finance role for you. Work there, learn, grow gradually in the system, then maybe see if now you are up the curve, your skills are more transferable to a banking domain. So it's up to you. Obviously, you need to identify what are your strong suits and how then that can be implemented into banking system.
सो दैट, ये बिल्कुल सही बताएं कि ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं कि आपको इमीडिएटली बैंकिंग में मिल जाए, बट नियर जो क्लोज इंडस्ट्रीज है, जैसे सी ए फर्म हो गया का, या कोई एन बी एफ सी हो गया, इवन फॉर द सेक ऑफ इंश्योरेंस हो गया, जहाँ पे एंट्री इजीली मिल सकता है, वहाँ से लेके देन यू कैन गेट एंट्री इनटू बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री एज वेल। थोड़ा सा चैलेंजिंग स्ट्रगल वाला रहता है, बट या दैट इज ट्रू। सो इंश्योरेंस से भी, मतलब वंस समवन इज गेटिंग एंट्री इनटू इंश्योरेंस, तो वहाँ से बैंकिंग में एंट्री
Right.
पॉसिबल रहता है, ईज़ी रहता है क्या? क्या व्हाट इज़ योर सजेशन?
I think it is actually. I have had seen people who actually have worked with, because a lot of banks have insurance arms also, right? ICICI has, HDFC has, or they have a JV with a foreign player. So then, if you are part of that particular banking ecosystem, I would say, like, then you can see the sales and the culture remains the same. So you are already part of the culture. So that's what they think, that okay, you're really good in sales, you're really good in insurance, you understand one of the products in the banking ecosystem, right? So it's easier for you to adapt in case you want to switch to a branch role or retail banking role or a maybe commercial banking role. Then you can actually showcase that. Obviously, you need to learn about other products as well on the job, and maybe then you can connect with people who are doing this role. So, in case, for example, I am doing structured solutions at Kotak Private, right? So, if somebody wants to be in this role 3 years, 4 years down the line, then they can read about what I do, how I do, maybe reach out to somebody and who's in that position and learn from them. I think there are more than enough people in the market, and which are who are more open and are available to share their knowledge, what they have learned, and guide you through it.
True, very true, and well summarized. So the next question is from one of the audience. This was, we've got in the comment. So the question goes like, what are the key difference between working in traditional banks, fintech startups, and investment banking?
Okay. So the traditional banks are structured; they are process driven. First of all, right? There is a method to the madness, I would say, right? You know what's happening. They're regulatory heavy, and they're stable. But it's a giant, right? So obviously, they are not nimble. So if you want to work in a nimble organization, then a fintech startup would be something that you would want to be a part of, right? But and those are fast-paced, tech-driven, uh, disruptive innovation. Trying new things, and obviously, but that would require you a lot of adaptability because it's obviously hard. You cannot actually sit back and uh, live your moment. I would say that okay, one thing is done now, I can take my break. It's very fast. Investment banking, it's very high stakes. it involves a lot of financial structuring, deal making. uh, it's a very demanding job, but very high reward one. It's I would say uh, the toughest of the jobs out there. So it's very, you need to be very strong mentally and emotionally actually to go through it. We all see stories from people that they start in IB, uh, fizzle out because it's work-life balance they need. So it's very important to understand, like I mentioned previously as well, that you need to understand what you're good at, what are your priorities, and then you set your priorities straight. Then only you will actually, it makes easier for you to plan your career out in banking industry.
Very true, very true. So you need to decide your priorities, and then you can try into this industries, this different kind of organization. So that's a great answer. The next question is, how important is specializations in areas like transaction banking, M&A structuring, or cross border finance for career growth?
Okay. So all these things come at a later stage, obviously. Once you start, you are expected to do everything, and as you grow internally, you have to find your mentors, and you need to find your guides, buddies, from whom you learn. And so that's essentially where the initial learning starts. Then you involve yourself in more the transactions, and then you identify, okay, this is something I want to do. So if you're really wanting to be a transaction banker, so then you need to know about cash management solutions, trade finance products, corporate banking products. So how, for example, how the collections happen when you do a payment on a Swiggy app, or if there is an exporter, how does Reliance export uh, XYZ through India to Germany, maybe. So you need to understand how you understand what's the working capital cycle, how it works. Coming to M&A structuring, you need to know investment banking, how does market operate, what's the, for example, you need to be very strong with one, if you're working in uh, domain. So you need to know how is the petroleum sector doing, how is education sector going, what are the peers doing, what are the transitions happening. So you need to have a very strong base of that particular thing. So essentially a lot of learning, reading, and keeping yourself updated. And if you want to do cross-border finance, so then you need to understand the guidelines around it. What are the RBI guidelines, do's and don'ts around it? Uh, you need to understand what are the global guidelines around it, and the action from the foreign investors point of view. So it's good. You can obviously learn about all these aspects, and there are more to it. Obviously only three you have asked, but then you need to actually have a broad knowledge base, then only you can actually.
एग्जाम्पल के लिए दिए, बाकी देर आर, एज यू सेड, देर आर लॉट ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन इन बैंकिंग, तो हर
Right.
एक का कुछ कुछ अलग अलग रहता है. दैट्स राइटली
Right.
आंसर.
Right.
So so moving on to the next question, what are the biggest challenges professional face in banking today, and उनको ओवरकम कैसे किया जाए? चैलेंजेस है और उनका सॉल्यूशन क्या है?
Right. Uh, so the most important I hear, and I think it implies on all the industries and whatever you do, it's work-life balance, right? And even banking can be demanding, just like any other profession. But obviously, you need to learn how to prioritize tasks, which is important, which is not important, and then automate wherever possible, right? And whatever time you have in on hand. So what I believe that essentially you can be very efficient with everything that you're doing. Maybe identify that this much task I need to complete in this much amount of time, like 80/20 principle that we talk of. I personally follow that. And secondly would be client expectations. We hear a lot in the market that okay, I went to this bank, then this problem happened, and these days of social media, a lot of things are also coming out, right? So you need to be very hands on with solutions that you are providing to client, being very honest to them in terms of how you approach them, because customers demand speed, efficiency, right? So you need to ensure that if they are doing a lot of manual work. How can you automate their lives, right? For example, they are still going to a branch for any kind of export import payment. How you can bring them to a platform, which like a trade fin that we have at Kotak, and make everything automate for them, right? So that's one another thing. uh, Next would be tech disruption. I think a lot of work is going on AI, fintechs, and in the world of now, Chat GPT is coming, and and all those things. So you need to be understanding what exactly different clients are doing, how they are doing going about payments and collections, uh, how their banking is happening. Different arrangements they do these days, like escrow account, or so you need to be very tech API, host to host. What is host to host transfers? What are API integration? So you need to learn about that. And then the most important, regulatory, which is keeps on changing, evolving. This month only we had 3 4 press notes from RBI on different aspects, and that those things actually will change the whole banking, as we know, as and when it matures, because any kind of guidelines which come in the banking system takes time to mature. And we are Indian banking industry is very, I would say, is right now very evolving stage. We have not evolved as much, so that can be very challenging for people who are not updated. So you need to be updated, connect to people who are actually talking about such things, regulatory changes, to talk to them, understand what they are saying. So yeah, so this would be continuous learning, and adaptability is one of the factors.
That's true. That's true. It's all about continuous learning and uh, इट्स मैं कई बार बोलता हूँ कि इट्स ऑल अबाउट एक्सपेरिमेंटिंग, कई बार
Yeah,
एक्सपेरिमेंट करने से लाइफ में कई बार पोज लेने से ये चैलेंजेस यू कैन ओवरकम इजीली, आप
right,
ओवरकम कर सकते हैं. सो
right.
वेल आंसर्ड. सो द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज हाउ कैन नेटवर्किंग, जैसे आपने इनिशियली बोला था सॉल्यूशन में कि नेटवर्किंग इज द सॉल्यूशन.
Hmm.
So
Right,
how can networking and mentorship help accelerate career growth in banking?
right. So networking opens a lot of doors, right, within the banking system if you want to grow, and obviously from the client's perspective also. See, I am a firm believer in word of mouth, that if I'm really working really good for, or really hard for the client, and the client actually understands that Pranjal is adding value to their lives, then automatically they would refer me to somebody else, and that's how it works, right? If you or me actually tell our friend, right, that this XYZ bank is doing well, or this XYZ person is actually good, then that actually brings instant trust, and instant there's an expectation which is set. Now it's on you as a banking profession to deliver on that, but it makes your life easier. Otherwise, there are a lot of products in the market, and the banking industry are more or less same. All the banks are offering them, so every bank has its own strong suit, so everybody has their own point of differentiation. Okay. So networking plays from the client perspective like this, and obviously, if you want to grow, you want to switch your roles, you want to understand what's going on in different bank, how they are working, what the changes are they are doing. Is this something a better fitment in a particular bank, or a fintech, or an NBFC? This is how you would get to know. And mentorship again is very important. I am personally have benefited a lot out of it. When I started my career at IDFC, first bank, and then moved on as ICICI Bank and HSBC. My mentors have helped me a lot. My guides, my mentors, and essentially till date I'm in contact with them, and they guide me if I have to make a switch, if I have to make, if there's anything which I'm not understanding, if there's something I want to do, I reach out to them, and they are more than happy to spare some time for me and understand. So your mentors become your family, I would say.
True,
And if somebody who's see more, there are more people who are senior to me, and even including myself. So there are people who are also open to mentoring as well. So you need to keep looking. You will get lucky, I would say.
ट्रू, ट्रू. कई बार आपने बताया वैसे सही, कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं कि वी कैन नॉट सी बट दे कैन सी एंड दे कैन फील इट,
Right,
बीइंग बीइंग अवे फ्रॉम द सिचुएशन. सो
right,
वो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू चेंज हो जाता है. सो और उनका एक्सपीरियंस मेक्स द डिफरेंस. सो वो एक
right,
डेफिनेटली फ़र्क रहता है. सो मेंटर तो लाइफ में यू नीड टू हैव इट. तो उसके बगैर
right,
तो you
because
know,
they also know you, they also know your personal priorities, how you are as a person, how you are evolved as a person. And they can guide you. Obviously you're the one who has to decide at the end of the day, but then they would actually suggest something which is more closer to what you are actually wanting to do. So if you have a good mentors, or in my case like couple of them or more of them, so you would be really hit out of the park. So
true. They can show you the mirror. Ki this is what the
yeah,
reality
yeah,
is, and this is
right,
good
right,
for you. This is not good for you, and
right,
if you will do this, then this will happen. And they can give you an entire blueprint or entire plan that. So yeah,
yeah,
that's true. That's true. And someone has rightly said, network is the net worth. So network can
right,
help in any direction, in any
right,
aspect, be it professional, be it personal. So true,
yeah.
one should keep exploring his network, and out of that network, usme se they can also select some mentors who will help them in excelling their careers. So that's really true.
Yeah, there can be anybody who you're working with, you've worked with, maybe somebody from your college or alumni base, right?
True, true,
Uh,
true.
you need to have an open mindset when you're looking for such people.
हाँ, it
And
doesn't make, it doesn't matter कि कोई बड़ी
mm,
डिग्री वाला है, ऐसा ही होना चाहिए.
mm,
Anyone can,
I agree, yeah,
experience and wisdom is required for that.
yeah,
So
right, right,
that's
right, right.
true. Great, great. So moving on to the next question, global perspective. So what
Mm.
role does global exposure play in shaping a successful banking career?
So I would say, with increasing cross-border transactions and more and more policies which are coming in to support that, it's very important to have a global exposure and a mindset, right? I would say thinking global but executioning local, right? So that's kind of an approach that you need to have. So you need to understand foreign regulations. So there are certain guidelines which are uniform everywhere. You need to learn about it, understand how they play out, and then keeping that in back of mind, if whenever you're talking to any of the clients, advising any of the customers, and even in discussing it internally. Then when you are exposed to certain clients which are global, like for example somebody is based out of US or somebody is looking to work in US, you will be able to understand their requirements better. You will, and the more you discuss and work with those clients, you'll build that expertise over the time. And if you have colleagues who are based out of different geographies, learn from them. So in my previous stint at HSBC, I was lucky to stay in touch with a lot of people who were working out of Australia, Germany, UK, and different Hong Kong, different markets. And I got to learn a lot from them in sense, like how they go about responding to any of the queries that we reach out, how they go about managing the work they have. So it's very refreshing also, right? You get to know a different perspective. Even if I may, so during my MBA stint at IFT, I was fortunate enough to uh, travel to Finland, do a semester at the Hangen School of Economics, and then I could learn that okay, the Indian way of doing things is one way, and there's different ways of doing the same thing. And then you develop, and then you also so then the mobility comes into the picture. You should be open to mobility, so in case there's any opportunity which is coming up which requires you to move out of India for a short stint or a permanent stint, should be open to it if that's what you want to do. So I think that essentially, it's very important, I would say, if you have this mindset.
Well explained. And the next question is, what's your advice to uh, advice for young professionals looking to build a long term career in the banking industry?
So, I, I mentioned it on my LinkedIn also. So, I have no special talent. I'm just passionately curious. So, you need to be very curious about what's happening, why it's happening, and staying up the curve, I would say. Even if you cannot be stay ahead of the game, you at least should be updated as on date. And it's okay if you don't know anything. Ask your seniors, ask your team members, ask somebody who's junior to you. I think that's what people actually make mistakes. They don't ask around, and I think it's fine if you don't know anything. It's okay. So learn about the different banking functions, how it work, even if it's outside your role, how a branch works. Because when something would happen internally, you would also know that that okay, if somebody is saying that this will take time, why it will take time. That also understanding is very important. And then obviously regulations. So like in my case, I do a lot of advisory, which is or maybe transitions which are based on FEMA. It keeps on evolving, so I also try to read as much as I can. And if I'm not able to, I learn from my colleagues, I learn from my mentors, I learn from my leaders. And AML guidelines, because all these things you need to, when you are working with anybody, your mind should be, uh, you cannot have blinds on. You need to think 360 degree about any customer. Don't know your regulations, you'll not be able to help the customers and be honest to yourself also.
True.
And like we've spoken about multiple times, build relationships along the way. So network, internally, externally, keep those relationships that you have built in your previous organizations, your new organization, in your colleges, intact. Nobody's actually asking you to be friends with everybody, but essentially you can have that acquaintances going on. So because banking is all about trust with clients, colleagues within the teams, and it actually helps you to grow within the system. Being tax savvy, like we have spoken of so many times right now, that technology is changing very fast, rapidly. New things are coming up. AI, how it's going to disrupt the banking industry. Fintech are coming up with new solutions. So you need to be very updated with that. What is the technology which is doing and how it's working these days? And because of all those four things, be adaptable. You might find yourself in a situation which is not conducive to your growth, but then obviously you need to show the adaptability and learn out of it, because maybe that information or that learning would actually help you in your next role.
True.
So
True.
that, I would say, these are the five six things that anybody who's actually starting or career in banking would actually should work on.
Be open to changes, be flexible, and be
Yeah,
adaptable. So
yeah.
that's great advice. And yeah, that was amazing. We got to know so many things. But the final question, your final words, your concluding notes, your final advice for our audience, what would
Yeah.
that be?
So, like we have discussed, banking is a dynamic industry. It's evolving, and it's evolving on a fast pace, I would say. So, anybody who's staying ahead of the curve, building strong relationships and networks, and developing expertise and learning on the go, which would actually serve themselves in good moving forward. So whether even if you're starting out or looking to pivot, so you need to focus on your learning aspect, networking aspect, and adaptability. I think if you have these three skills, if you master these three skills, um, I'm pretty sure that you would be a good banker. It can be a retail banker, it can be a private banker, it can be an investment banker, commercial banker. I think if you have these skills, sky's the limit for you. And if anyone who was tuned into this webinar want to be discuss anything further, want to know more about my journey, they can feel free to reach out to me or Vipul Bhai, as
Yes,
they have correctly
definitely,
mentioned.
definitely. You guys can connect with Pranjal on his LinkedIn, and you can definitely DM or get his help. He'll be happy to help you guys. So
Exactly.
that was amazing, Pranjal. We got to know so many
Yeah.
things from today's session, and काफी अच्छा लगा, काफी इंटरेक्टिव रहा, काफी कुछ learning, काफी कुछ knowledge full session रहा, and thank you for sharing your real life experience. So we really appreciate that.
Sure.
So,
Thanks, Vipul.
with that note, best wishes for your bright career. Yes, audience, I'm sure you would have got so much from today's session. तो बस ऐसे ही जुड़े रहिए हमसे. Stay tuned. Uh, follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow our expert uh, on their LinkedIn profile, and you can get their help for the uh, your future advancement. आप ऐसे ही जुड़े रहिए. एवरी वीक हम ऐसे ही इंडस्ट्री एक्सपर्ट्स को इनवाइट करते हैं जो आपके साथ अपना रियल लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करते हैं. सो सी यू नेक्स्ट वीक. टिल देन, स्टे ब्लेस्ड, कीप स्माइलिंग, एंड follow me on LinkedIn, or subscribe our YouTube channel, Vipul the Wonderful, to get the regular live updates. And as mentioned here, this session is powered by Post Resume. So do check the website and do connect with us if you're looking for any our any of our services. If you're looking for a talent solutions for your organization, then we would love to help you. And if you're looking for any career guidance, then we would love to help you. So stay blessed, take care, keep smiling. See you next week. Thank you so much.